Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe Beck, and I'm going to do my Q&A for my 6-year anniversary here on Booktube. So, April 30th, 2017, I posted my first video. Is anybody surprised that it was a library book sale haul? Anyway, so, I have been here for that long, and so, I just posted my 800th video just last week, so it's pretty cool. I've been here quite a long time. Cooper is here with me, so we'll see how long he hangs out. I will get a picture of Truman later so you can see both cats, but yes, Kitty is pawing at me. Anyway, so this isn't gonna go well, so I might have to clip in and out of here just to so that I can be more succinct onto things. Anyway, so I haven't done a Q&A in about 3 or 4 years, so I thought I would do one for my 6-year anniversary. I want to do something this year to kind of commemorate it, so here it is. So people left comments on that video. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So I've kind of organized them into different groups of questions, so we will kind of go through that, and hopefully this will be fun. So we'll see how it goes. So the first question is, how did I come by my channel name? So my channel name, Zoe Beck, is a name that I signed up with Google with an email that was Zoe Beck because I was planning at the time to use that as a pseudonym for my writing on things I didn't maybe want my parents to know about at the time. I wasn't sure. So I had this backup name because I might not want to write stuff under my real name at first. So that was kind of it was an email for something separate, maybe for my writing, and it kind of Google again pulled it, and that was what the channel was named. So I left it like that. The name originates from the 90s when I would go drinking with my friends, and we didn't always tell our real names. Let's just put it that way. So Zoe Beck was my drinking name. It's just the way it is. Anyway, but that's where the name originally came from. And then again, as I said, I used that name. I was going to use that name for writing purposes, and then I decided not to at this point. So I will, if I do decide to do another pseudonym, it won't be that one because now I've used it on YouTube for so long, and I don't think I'll connect those up. We'll see what happens. Anyway, point is that that's how the name came about. So now we'll go into some bookish questions. What is your favorite genre? I would say my favorite genre is fantasy. I read a lot of different types of fantasy. My biggest ones are urban fantasy and paranormal romance. Those are the kind of things I like to read about, where it's the world, but it's kind of twisted with, some kind of magical thing. I love stuff with magics, and I like all the dragons and stuff too in epic fantasy and the other world building things, but really all I like the most about urban fantasy and paranormal romance is that you can kind of relate to some of the stuff, except that it's different, and so I kind of like that. So, and again, that's kind of my favorite, I would say my favorite genre, although as I said, I read a lot of different things. So the other question is there a genre I won't read? And I can't think of anything that I would say I would never read. I'm definitely one of those readers who have tried a lot of things that I might not pick up a lot of certain kind of things because I didn't maybe not cared for it too much, but I have tried a lot of things and I enjoyed a lot of things. So I would say the only thing I don't read that I actively try not to buy or don't pick up too often is contemporary. Just stuff that's about people and usually not liking their lives, or they've had trauma in their lives and things like that. I have to have something extra to that. Like if it is from another country though, like from anywhere around the world where I have not been, then I am much more amped to pick up a translated work of contemporary fiction, because I'm not just getting this story about somebody nowadays, but I'm also getting a lot of details about their country and about the social stuff from their country. I don't need that commentary from my country or from English speaking countries, because I know so much of that from other media and just from, you know, being an English speaker. So I like to, as I said, so, but I wouldn't say that that was, I won't read contemporaries that are, you know, written in English, but, or, you know, were originally written in English. It's just, I don't read very much of them. So I don't have a genre I won't read. I just try to avoid that. Does that make sense? I don't know. Anyway, so I'll take a break. Hold on. Okay. So the next question is, what books or authors got you into reading? I would say, well, again, I come from a family of readers. My dad and my mom and my grandparents were all readers. Even my brother, who isn't much of a reader, he's much better now, but he wasn't as a kid. But I grew up seeing people read books all the time. So I think we started out, you know, picture books and things like that and moving on. My first book that I read repeatedly over and over from my school library was The Boxcar Children. And I can't remember the name, her whole name, but it's Warner, I think is the last name. And I still to this day think about that book. I have not reread it in like 40 years, but I read that like several times a year from the time I think I first picked it up when I was like 7. And I think I read it like every year a couple times. And you know how they had the cards in the back of the library book? My name was like in there all the time. Anyway, so I just adored that book. My librarian was always trying to get me to read other stuff, which I did, but I always came back to that one. So it was my first rereading. So I knew that I was going to be a rereader like early on. And then I, you know, was introduced to like Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys later in elementary. And then middle school is where I jumped from that, from mysteries, like the childish mysteries of Nancy Drew and stuff. And I discovered Agatha Christie when I was 11 and 11 or 12. So sorry about that. About around that time, because I read And Then There Were None, and that kind of just blew my mind on the whole mystery thing. So then I would say mysteries are really what got me, like, as I said, Boxcar Children was a little different, but they had all those cool little gadgets what they did in their boxcar anyway, which I liked because it wasn't realistic that these kids were on their own living in a boxcar anyway. But I think the mystery element was something that was like the first thing that I really enjoyed in reading. And I would have to say again, the Nancy Drews and Hardy Boys, and then the Agatha Christie was like my first. Those are the first books that I really remember that were like what I was really into. So, and then, I would say, you know, then again, I progressed into fantasy in end of 8th grade, and, I read the Dragonlance Chronicles. It took me a really long time to read the first book, but that kind of introduced then epic fantasy to my stuff I read. And then at that point, that's also when I kind of started reading Christopher Pike, and then it wasn't too long after that I was reading, you know, Stephen King and Dean Koontz, and it just kind of progressed from there. And then again, as I said, I mixed all those things up. So I would say, you know, as I said, it's hard to say what author, you know, or books got me into reading, because I was reading all the way through, but I think those are my primary of my childhood, you know, up through, you know, through middle school. I think those are the big influences I had. And again, high school is more Stephen King, Dean Koontz, Brian Lumley on that end. And then also that's when I like read classics like, you know, Jane Austen and Alexandre Dumas with the Three Musketeers. And, you know, I was all like all over the place. And then they made us read all those depressing books in high school. So, you know, so I think it's, you know, I think progression, if I wanted to say what authors were very influential, I have to say Carolyn Keene from all the Nancy Drews I read, and then also Agatha Christie early on. And then we do have to mention Dragonlance, because it was just the first time I read fantasy like that. So, and then Tad Williams was right after that. So, which is somebody I still read. So that's kind of how that is. Okay. Sorry. This is going to be jumpy because my brother texted me. He had some stuff from the grocery store for me. Anyway, so the next question is, who are your favorite authors? So this is hard because I have a lot of authors that I read. I read a lot, but I would say my top ones are Nalini Singh and Tad Williams and Simon R. Green. I would put authors like like certain series I like really love, so it's kind of hard, but like Jennifer Ashley, I like several of her series, so I'm going to put her, I would say she is one, even though I would not say she's like 5-star, but it was still, they're lots of fun. Katie Robert is definitely one of my newer favorite authors right now. So I do have Alexander Dumas, I would still say is a favorite, even though I've stalled out on the D'Artagnan romances, but I will get back to that, but I still love the books that I have read by him. You know, so those are kind of, I would say, my favorites. I have so many books that I really enjoy, but I would say those are my favorites. Gail Carriger is the other one, I would say. She's also on that list. So those are those ones. Then someone asked, is there a book series that you couldn't stop binging when you started? So I tend to read a lot of series, and there are times when I have binged series, when they've had a lot out. I've classified these ones as all ones that I've binged up until like there was no more books for me to read, but it's still ongoing as well, because there's some of the series that I read all the way to a certain point, and then I have stalled out because I haven't gone back to it. So it's kind of like, but I would say some of the ones that I binged, especially in the last 10 years, that are very clear to me that I did it, was Discworld by Terry Pratchett, the Guild Hunter and the Side Changing series by Nalini Singh, the Others series by Anne Bishop, the Wicked Villain series by Katie Robert, Stay a Spell by Juliet Cross. Again, I read those, as many as were out, and then I've continued on with those. But one of the older ones that I did when I was a kid was The Belgariad by David Eddings. Last year I did the Pride and the Magnus Pack and the Honey Badger series by Shelley Lawrenston. I binged all those last winter into spring, so I think that those count because I was reading quite a bit of those. And then I'm going to put Kate Daniels in here, because even though I read that as a buddy read with Tianola Books, and we read like 1 or 2 a month for all of 2021, it was like, but we were continuing on, and we wanted to get the series done before the end of the year, so we did read a few more in certain months to get that done. And to me, even though I did not binge them as in sat down, I just read the series, you know, without breaks, I still consider that a binge because I read that full series within that year and had a lot of fun. So those are like some series that I read. Again, you'll notice that most of them are urban fantasy or paranormal romance. And those are definitely the series that I binge more often than others, because they're just so easy, and there's usually a lot of books to binge when you get to those, but there's a few fantasy ones in there too. But those, I would say, are some of the bingeable series that I have read. And then the next question is, what books started your love on Japanese literature? So I will say that I read, I would say Haruki Murakami was the one I started with, because I was working at Walden Books at the time, and when the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle came out in translation, and I I don't remember if somebody told me about it or I just kept seeing it and I just wanted to try it, and I definitely tried it. And at that time I was very much into anime and manga in the early days, where we had people who were translating it who were just fans, and not we didn't have quite as much stuff that was done by companies like that were actually buying it, you know, with trademarks and stuff, you know, copyrights. This is all on this side. So I was really into that kind of side culture of a lot of manga and anime that I was watching and reading. And so, but he was like the first of the when I would say that was literature, or, you know, was more like that kind of book, you know, like a physical book that I could read. And Wind-Up Bird Chronicle to me was amazing at the time. I don't know what it would feel like now if I read it, because again, that was over 20 years ago, so I don't know what it would feel like now. I have read a lot of his books, so he was like the first one, and then it just kind of, I started collecting other authors. I would say mostly in the last 10 years I've more, you know, picked up more, and And again, right now I'm starting to get into Japanese crime novels. So I'm hoping, or their mystery stuff. So I'm kind of looking forward to that next phase of my Japanese literature, or, you know, their translated works that I can get a hold of. Since I don't read as much manga or don't watch as much anime anymore, so I've kind of switched over to that. But again, I think it really started out with my love of anime and manga, and then I just happened to pick up the Wind Up Bird Chronicle, and as I said, there are issues with that book, but I loved like the books that came after that I read, like A Wild Sheep Chase and Dansu Dansu Dansu, and oh, there was one more. I moved the book, so I don't know what they are, but you know, I liked some of the older stuff, not so much of the newer stuff. I think I have 2 more books of his that I have on my shelf, that 2 or 3 books I need to still read. But I would say that was the one who got me into that, even though I was into manga and anime already at that time. I guess that's the answer to my question. Okay, so what are your favorite themes and tropes? This is hard because, you know, like a lot of the stuff, as it depends on what genre I'm talking about. If we're talking about romances, my favorite is the fake dating and the forced proximity and there's only one bed kind of thing. Like it's again that some outside influences are working to make these people have to pretend that they like each other when they usually don't at first. And then, but I don't like hate to love so much. I'm more like I'm not sure about you, but I have to deal with you. And I think that's the same that I feel in a lot of the fantasy that I read. I like the ones where people have to make alliances when they're not really sure about the other person. I think a lot of the urban fantasy things are what I like in all books. Is I love everything that has a mystery. Like if a book has a mystery in it, usually I will enjoy it because that'll drive me to want to know what's happening. So at the core of most of the books that I really enjoy, which is a reason why I love urban fantasy, is because there's usually a mystery involved, and then it has these extra fantasy elements, which I love as well. So I think that's like a favorite. Like as I said, I don't read as many straight mysteries. I'm not into cozy mysteries very much because I'm not much into the amateur detective. I mean, but let's go back to what I like. But I do like when in urban fantasy they're detectives in their own right, or they've been working, you know, they have enough knowledge to get us through, and it doesn't feel so cringy when they kind of know what they're doing. Even if they don't know about the mystery, they don't know what they're doing. Like they know, you know, how to do stuff without, I don't know how to explain that. Maybe that didn't go so well, but I would say, as I said, I do like the chosen one trope a little bit in epic fantasy, but I like it when it's a group. Like it's not just the chosen one. It's like the chosen ones, you know, kind of thing, and has more of a group aspect. And there might be one that's considered the chosen one, but I like it when they have that backing of their friends and stuff too. So I guess I don't know if that's like that works. I don't know. What are your favorite history related books? That's kind of hard. So I would force this into the nonfiction section. I do read a lot of nonfiction history, is what I classify it as, which is, you know, biographies and history, things on a historical event. And that is really my favorite thing, is when we're looking at a historical event and what led up to it, or why something happened. And a lot of those I've really enjoyed. I'm trying to think the name some of those that I've read that I really enjoyed. I do like true crime too. Like again, Helter Skelter was a book that I read when I was maybe I shouldn't have read it when I did, but I think it was very formative, and seeing kind of a different kind of evil of manipulation and stuff. So maybe that's why I don't like that kind of stuff. Anyway, but history, like as I said, I've read a lot of stuff on like U.S. history, like with the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, World War I and World War II, and just like learning about certain like a certain battle of something, or like Custer's Last Stand, or like you know, certain battle. Like I like that. Like I read Bunker Hill, I think last year or the year before, and that was really good because again, you got the whole. I liked seeing how everything played out and where mistakes were made. And, you know, in hindsight, we can go and say, you know, this shouldn't have happened this way and stuff. So I think that's kind of, my favorite thing is on an event. Now, I've read some really good biographies. I'm trying to do my presidential biographies. I kind of put that on hold. I just haven't had the inclination to pick up the next one that I need to do. But I'm more amped to read a book about an event and then showing how things were before and then how it progressed and how it got really bad and then what the aftermath was, or what was learned from it. I'm not sure, but those are kind of the interesting ones that I think that's kind of the history that I like to related books that I like to read. So as I said, those are, I don't know if that answered the question or not, but we're gonna go with that. So oh, okay, let me take a break here. Hold on. Okay, sorry. This is it. I take breaks. Anyway, so the next one was, if you could only read 5 books for the rest of your life, what would they be? This is so hard. I reread a lot of books, and so I definitely want to pick 5 books that I reread or have reread. So, but I mean, only 5 books to read for the rest of life is kind of a mean question. Anyway, so I would definitely put Pride and Prejudice because I have read that quite a lot. The other classic I would say is The Three Musketeers. I just have a fondness for that book from the time I read it in high school. And I've read it several times, even if I haven't completed the D'Artagnan romances, which is reminding me I need to do that. But I definitely I would say that would be my second one. And then the other 3 are all just fantasy, or, you know, are part of fantasy stuff. Urban fantasy as well as paranormal. Is that right? What did I just say? So one of them would be, oh, my brain just shut down. What was it? Oh, so, okay. Soulless by Gail Carriger. I just love that book. Silver Silence by Nalini Singh is my favorite in the whole Side Changeling series. I just adore that book. And then the last one would be The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. Those are all books I've read multiple times since they came out, you know, that are more recent compared to the 2 classics. But I think overall, those would be the 5 books I picked. That was a hard question. That hurt me quite a bit. But I'm glad I don't have to only read 5 books for the rest of my life. Luckily, I have a lot of books that I want to read and what other books I want to reread. Anyway, so how many books did you read last year? I think I read 220, really close to that. Some of those were rereads. So again, if you mean books, new to me books, what did I figure? I think I read 70 rereads last year about that. So I would say about 150 were new, approximately. It was around that. And then how many books do I plan to read this year? I'm hoping to hit 200. I always put my Goodreads goal at 52 because my goals are really low for a reason, is because there have been years where I couldn't read, or things were going on that I didn't have time for it. So I always make it, I always put it at 52 or 50, close to that, so that it's more like a book a week. And so at least I'm making progress. Because if I decide to read big books, I want to make sure I make this goal. Well, I've already passed that so far this year, so we're fine with how much. I would like to, by the end of the year, be close to 200. I don't know if I'm going to make the 220 that I got last year. Last year was a high year. I've never read that many books in a year. Last year, that was really, really high. It has to do with a lot with my job change, as I'm able to listen to audiobooks more at work. And I wasn't able to do that in my previous position. So last year and this year, I mean, this year's been up and down because I've had some issues with my ear, but, and last year did too. So I think, you know, I think that kind of added it to it. So I'm hoping for 200. I don't plan to be much more than that. Or, I mean, if I don't make 200, that's fine. Again, as that, I've already made my 52. I'm good. I'm not going to worry about it, but that's kind of how that goes. How many books do you have and how many in each genre? So I don't know exactly, because I haven't counted in 2 years, year and a half, I think is the last time I did this. I have over 2,000 books. I think I'm closer to the 2,300 books that I own. Most of those are unread. I would say I was probably close to, I think I figured that about 30% was how many I'd read, and the rest were all new to me, or, you know, books I hadn't read yet. So let's just figure my TBR is probably in the 1400s of what I have. As I said, I've been an avid book collector my whole life. Again, not even when I didn't have a whole lot of money, my extra spare money would go to the used bookstore or a library book sale where I spend money. So I have a lot of books. So yeah, no, I don't need to buy a whole lot, even though I just bought like a ton in April, which you'll see soon. And then May is my birthday month, so I'm sure I'm going to buy a lot of books this month. We'll see if I can calm down after that. But I don't have any idea how many per genre. I've never calculated that. That wasn't anything I've done. I would say my majority of books are in fantasy, sci-fi, you know, speculative of some sort, would be the highest number. I have a lot of classics I haven't got to, a lot of nonfiction, a lot of mystery, a lot of historical fiction, a lot of translated works, and a lot of romance of different genres. Yeah. So I have a lot of books, but I have no idea for each genre, but I have a lot of books. Anyway, I think we all know that. That's why you can't see that I have a whole wall of bookcases everywhere in my house, and I want to get some more. Anyway, but there's no space. Okay, so there was an interesting question here from one of them. Said, what's my favorite English authors? And I think that's pretty obvious. Jane Austen is probably always going to be my favorite English author, just because that she just is. So I don't have any others that are like prominent right now. I think unfortunately, most of my top reads are beyond that are mostly American. So I, need to expand on that. But they did ask for if there was any Yorkshire area authors that I enjoyed, and I actually don't know any. So if you have some suggestions from authors from Yorkshire that I should read, I'm all open for it. Let me know, especially if they have some fantasy element to it. I would really enjoy that, so let me know. The other part was, what part of the UK is your favorite place for a book to be set in? That to me is interesting. I think London is definitely one of my favorites. If we go like within that I really like stuff from Scotland and Ireland as well, but but mostly, I would say I want to be all over the place. I don't know a lot of the other areas. I mean, I've read books from different areas in there, but that's an interesting question. So it's another one I have to like kind of research more of what I think would be that I enjoy. I just know a lot of books that I read that's about the UK is usually in the big cities. Anyway, but I like the country books too. Like, again, Pride and Prejudice anyway. And Persuasion by Jane Austen. Both of those favorites. Anyway, so this is one I can't answer, and I just want to put it out there because I think it's a great question, and it's going to be one I have to start like really looking through books. I don't think about this that much. Is what is your favorite first line of a book? So I don't have one. I mean, except, the classic Pride and Prejudice one. But, really, I don't think about it that much. I'm not one of those ones who does a first line, is it a 5-star book from a first line? No, and as a writer, I understand that you want a good first couple lines like in your book. If you can get a good hook in there, you draw people in. I don't like, it doesn't click in, or it doesn't I don't stop and go, oh, that was a really good first line, and that's, I just don't think of that way. So this is one I might have to look into other books to see what I find out, because I don't know. So then we're kind of going into kind of general stuff, questions. What kind of music do you like, or do I like? And I'm very much from the 90s and the 2000s kind of hard rock. I would say my favorite bands are like, they're all guy bands, but I mean, they're bands. Anyway, so like Seether and Green Day and Nickelback. I admit it, I like Nickelback. More I like Daughtry and that. And then again, there are female or bands that I listen to, but those are like the core ones I listen to the most. I admit it even now. Some of them are, again, they're still making music, so I still buy it whenever it comes out. Those are the stuff that I was really into. I mean, I listen to a lot of other music, but those are the core. I admit it. Those guys, they're my favorites. I like Stained and I know that there's other ones. Linkin Park, all that kind of stuff is the bands that had the hard music with a good beat, and again, I like those. Anyway, that's the kind of music I like. I mean, I like a lot of soundtrack music for when I'm writing. And again, the Lord of the Rings soundtracks are my favorite of all time. Like, without a doubt, I will listen to those on repeat all the time. So there you go. I don't know. I mean, there's other movie soundtracks I like too, but those are, I would say, those are my favorite right now. Or still, for 20 years, have been my favorite. Let's put it that way. And then somebody asked, what's my favorite tea? I don't drink tea. I've never liked tea, hot or cold, really. The only tea I drank ever was when we were at a Chinese restaurant and they would give us black tea or whatever. So that was okay. I'm not into tea. I don't really like hot drinks is the problem. And I don't like iced tea. I've never liked the taste. Like my mom would have sun tea, the Lipton sun tea. I hated that stuff. Anyway, I just am not into tea. I've never was. And sorry about that. I'm not a tea drinker. I'm definitely a coffee drinker, and definitely a Dutch Brothers coffee drinker. Caramelizer is my favorite. The caramelizer freeze. Anyway. And then they asked the kind of biscuit or cracker cookie kind of thing was my favorite. And I don't know, like that's a really interesting question. I don't eat a lot of crackers on very often. I mean, there's some things I put together that like I like Wheat Thins and stuff like that, but I would have to say Oreos are one of my favorite if I had to pick a cookie. But biscuit, not, I don't know, does Wheat Thins count for, I don't know. I don't know. And then here's a travel one is, what is your favorite city that you've been to? So I did travel a lot when I was younger. I haven't traveled in the last little while. I'm actually right now waiting for my passport to be renewed. I messed up and forgot to put the quantity or the amount in the check, so I got rejected. The check so I had to send another one. Such a dork. Anyway, the point is that I'm waiting for that to come through because I'm hoping to maybe start traveling again later this year or next year. But the favorite city that I've been to so far, I have to say Sydney, Australia. I got to go there twice. Well, it's almost 20 years ago. It's kind of sad. I went there because one of my best friends from high school lived there. So I went and visited twice too. And it was a gorgeous city. It was so fun to get a ride around in the system. They had some of those buses that, had the stop and, or hop on and hop off kind of thing. I did quite a few things there in Sydney itself. And it was just an amazing city. It was fun at the time when I went. And I did do the bridge walk. I went over went up to the top of the bridge and then back. So I did survive that too. There was a lot of good things. It was really a really pretty place. I went in October, so it was early spring, so it wasn't too bad on temperatures. It was just a great time, and I would love to go back at some point to visit my friend who doesn't live near Sydney anymore, but I still would like to go back to Sydney. I still love that. I would say that was the favorite city that I've been to so far. Okay, so now we're going to talk about kitties. So again, this is Cooper. The questions is how did you get your cats and how old are they? Or how long have I had Truman and Cooper? So I have, this is Cooper and Truman is the one I'll show a picture of here in a little bit. They are brothers and I got them in 2015 in August. And that was right after we moved. My brother and I bought this duplex and moved in. I waited because until we were settled before I brought them in. So they will be 8 years old on June 3rd. So good kitties. So they're doing really well. So they are definitely love bugs, and they are a little mad at me because I was gone yesterday anyway. So so I got them at I went to one of the other cat rescues here in town. It's the cat adoption. It's like CAT adoption. So it's like adoption team. That was it. So it's cat adoption team. And so they're not too far away. And I went in there and found them. So they actually came from, I think, Kansas. So they had gotten a group of cats from there. That had just arrived. And so then I picked out the two brothers of the orange cats. I wasn't planning on orange, but I got them anyway, and they're cute. So I had a cat before them who I had it for 15 years, and he had passed away right before we moved into this house. So he never got to come here. So my cat was named Tamahome. So if those of you who have watched or read the manga or anime of Fushigi Yugi, that is what he's named after. His nickname was Tama. So I have that like as in my Twitter handle and some other things. Just because anyway, so I had him for a really long time. As I said, it was a half feral cat when I got him. He was really cute though, but I bled a lot from him. And so I had him for a really long time, but I only could afford one cat at the time. And I really regret that I did not get two cats. So when I went to get Truman and Cooper, when I decided to go, I was going to go get more cats. I was definitely going to get two. So I think from now on, I will always have at least two. So, but that's it. So, I mean, I had cats growing up. My parents had half Siamese Geraldine they already had her when I was born, and she passed away. I must have been in middle school, I think. And so then after that, my brother and I got cats at the Humane Society, and my cat only lived a couple years because she got hit by her name is Squeaky, and she got hit by a car. And she was also part Siamese. But my brother's cat, Tabby, she was I think she was 20 when she passed away. So she had a really long, good life. But a couple years after Squeaky passed, I got another cat, which we called Weasel. He was a gray and white cat. He looked kind of like a Holstein cow colors, and he was a little demon. And my poor brother's cat, Tabby, had to deal with him. So, but he turned out to be my dad's cat. Like, he was my cat, but he was loyal to my dad because my dad fed him. So. And my friends in high school called him Speed Bump or the Whale because he would lay in the hallway and try to trip you. And even though he was white, you couldn't see him in the hallway when it was dark. So he was called a Speed Bump and too as well, but he was called Weasel. But anyway, so that's my cat history. Sorry, little tangent there down memory lane. So okay, so one last kind of off question, or I should have put this probably farther up with the Booktube stuff, but somebody did ask if I will be making more vlogs. I hope that after doing it again when I did the House of Earth and Blood on my Sarah J. Maas, when I did that vlog, I do want to do more. I don't live a very exciting life, so it's kind of hard for me to get started on stuff, but I'm hoping to maybe try to work some more in during this spring and summer on different things. We'll see. I might choose books also that I want to vlog on. I'm not sure. If you guys have any suggestions, I will take them. Anything I can help. So then the last ones here, we're just going to kind of talk about my writing, which is something that I don't I'm trying to get back into. I used to be very prolific, and it kind of ebbs and flows for me, my writing. And this has kind of been a down turn the last few years. So I'm hoping to kind of gear it back up. So somebody asked if I was a published author or just writing for fun. I'm just writing for fun. I've never submitted anything nor, you know, tried to get published. So I have never gotten to the point where I felt a piece was ready for that. I have written quite a few novels, but they're not there's always some problem with them anyway. So I'm still working on it. I'm hoping someday to feel confident enough to send something in, but I haven't quite got to that, much to my great aunt's dismay, because she keeps telling me to send stuff in and I don't. So maybe one day I will at least attempt. But at this point, now when I'm not writing very much, I don't even want to send anything in my old stuff, because that's not who I am anymore. Does that make sense? Anyway. So who are your influences in writing? So I don't know. Like, this is kind of interesting because, well, I think it really, because I started writing when I was about probably about 12 or 13. I really started writing with a friend of mine. She wanted to write, so we would sit around and write for fun. And that started pretty early for me. And all through high school, I had friends who were writers. And we sat around and wrote. And, you know, it kind of continued from there into adulthood kind of thing. So, but my influences, I think, will always come back to, I always wanted something with a mystery. So the first things I wrote were very much had mystery or horror elements. So I would say, again, there was that Nancy Drew feeling in some of my books, and then also Christopher Pike, because I wanted the fear, the scary part of it. And then I kind of moved into urban fantasy fairly soon after that. That I found more fun to write about vampires and werewolves and things. And again, I did the traditional stuff early. I did my vampire novel was my first one that I actually completed. It took many years, but it just, you know, but I would say influences wise really was Nancy Drew and Hardy Boy books, and then also Christopher Pike. Those are the kind of writings that I was drawn to. I didn't think I felt like I could do anything epic fantasy, even though I was reading it. I did try a little bit, and I couldn't. I didn't have the world building skills at the time. So I think, again, urban fantasy comes back to the reason I love that is because it's the world, but it's slightly twisted, and that to me was what I really enjoy to read as well as to write. So the question is what am I writing? I'm not writing right now anything specific. When I do write, I just sit down and write whatever comes to mind that day. I have a lot of starts to stuff. I have a lot of stuff that's just a scene. I'm not working on anything actively, which is why I need to get better about being consistent. And so that maybe I can come up with a story again and have a whole novel to write. I just haven't got to that for a while. So I'm hoping this year I will at least attempt before nonfiction. So sorry. NaNoWriMo or National Novel Writing Month happens in November every year. And I did take part in Camp NaNoWriMo, which is kind of their their smaller writing months. So that's also in July. I'm hoping in July to also participate, but I only wrote about 10,000 words this month. So I'm hoping to do, again, about the same in July. If I can do more, that'd be great. But I want to try to just get more consistent before we get to November, which I'm supposed to write 50,000 words or more. And in some of those, in years past, because I've done National Novel Writing Month since 2006. So quite a few years now. And I've only not finished twice for different reasons, but most of the other ones I've either made 50,000 or I've written a novel. And I'd like to get back to the point where I write a novel and not just write random stuff like I have. So anyway, I'm working on that. So what do I like best about writing? I like getting lost in the story and just making stuff up and making things complicated. I tended to write a lot of red herrings and all the stuff that I write because I have mysteries. And so I'm always trying to mysteries with this, you know, a fantasy element usually. So I like the world building that way of things and then kind of making things complicated before the main character can figure out what is going on, because I like to confuse my characters. And what do I least like about writing? Editing. I don't like to edit. Not because I think editing is a skill that just you need to work on. I always found it very hard to look at something that I've written and want to change it. There's certain things I'd want to change for sure, that I wrote something that I just like, oh, I don't like that, but I'll just write that here for now until I can get back to it. But there's a lot of times where it's hard for me to see past what I wrote the first time and want to change it, because I go, yeah, but that's what I wrote. That's what I want. And it's, you know, I mean, even though it could be done better. So editing is probably my least favorite. It's the thing I hate to do. I admit it. It's hard for me. And then, what's the best writing advice you've ever gotten? I think the main one for me is to be consistent and just to write, no matter how you feel that day, which is, again, what I need to take to heart and to actually do. I don't do that enough. And as I said, I want to get back to that. And again, they also said not to worry about the write what you know stuff. Just write whatever you want to. I don't think it matters. I think you should write when it's fun for you and you're the first reader. So as long as you're enjoying it, then maybe somebody else will as well. So that's the best I could come up with. That is my Q&A. Again, I will show a picture here in a second. Of Truman at the end. But thank you so much for watching this. If you got to the end, I know this is really long. I knew it would be. So I'm posting this on my Booktube anniversary. I will post my weekly update. I'm going to film it after this, and I'll post it on Monday. So it'll be just a little off. So anyway, and then we'll see how that goes. So if you, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope I made sense. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. And again, thank you all those who have subscribed. I really appreciate it. And those who put questions in my Q&A announcement video. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Truman's a good boy.